What is up, Chess YouTube? In this video, I am going to prove to you why the Nimzo-Indian is one of the strongest and most interesting and strategically complex openings against 1d4 that you can play. And if you want to get stronger at chess and reach really interesting positions, I can't recommend the Nimzo-Indian enough. So what is the Nimzo-Indian? Well, it occurs after the moves 1d4, knight f6, then c4, e6. Now here, if white goes for the moves knight f3 or g3, those are potentially the strongest moves here. Then I recommend d5. This is all the rage, heading for the queen's gambit declined. Literally all the top grandmasters play this as black. But what if white goes knight c3 here, threatening e4, as that square is now defended? e4 would be super, super strong. A black wasted move like, I don't know, bishop e7, then e4 comes, and white is doing really well. Well, against knight c3, what you do is the Nimzo-Indian with the move bishop to b4. Now, the idea behind this opening, you are trying to control the e4 square. If white goes e4 right away, obviously, you take the pawn as the knight on c3 is pinned to the king, and white can't take your knight. So that's the entire idea. Controlling e4. Black's also likely going to castle fast, and from there go for moves like d5, c5, and get counterplay in the center very, very fast. All right, now white here has a million options. The main moves are e3 and queen c2, but beyond that, white's got a whole smorgasbord of different options here. Smorgasbord, an actual saying. I don't know, but white's got like a million options here. In the game, white goes bishop d2. This is a very subtle line that has emerged for white as one of the most common lines at the grandmaster level. The idea is the bishop controls the knight, therefore if black takes, white takes back without damaging his pawn structure. And from here, white may go e3, knight f3, bishop d3, and so on, getting a very interesting game. All right, as black, I go d5. That's my preferred move here as black. And white plays a little bit of a surprising move, the move a3. Why is this so surprising? Well, normally when you go bishop d2 here, you're not going for a fast a3 as, you know, it's just too slow. The combination of these moves here is just a little bit slow. Typically, when white goes for a fast a3, he's trying to go for a fast f3 and e4, or maybe e3, then later f3, e4, and so on. But here, I just take on c3, white takes back, and then I jump in with the knight e4. So my idea is white is trying to win the bishop pair in this manner without damaging his pawn structure. So having those two bishops is very, very helpful for white. However, I just jump in and ruin his idea, as now the bishop really doesn't have anywhere to go. If you go to, say, b5, a4 knocks it back, a5, b6 knocks it back, and so on, white is going to lose this bishop whether he likes it or not. All right, now white goes bishop e4. Very curious looking move. I go a5, just knocking it back. a5 is a good move in general for me here. It goes back. Then I take on c3, and white's pawn structure, I mean, the entire idea of bishop d2 was to avoid this catastrophe, but it happens anyway. But don't worry, white's still doing pretty okay here. The game is still very complicated for a long time. Now I castle, white takes on d5, I take back with the queen. Either recapture here is fine, the pawn or the queen. I go queen takes, trying to stay active. White goes e3, I go c5, getting counterplay. Then we have knight f3, knight c6, bishop d3, and b6. The idea behind b6, this light squared bishop is trapped inside the pawn chain. Therefore, I'm setting up bishop b7 ideas here. And now, technically, in case you're curious, there were some other ideas here for black that were perhaps a little bit stronger than my last few moves, but overall, a logical idea by black. Now, here, white goes e4, gaining space and pushing back the queen. Now, this move e4 is very committal. It technically weakens the pawn d4. Like, back with the pawn on e3, white had this little mini pawn triangle going here, missing the pawn on b2 for the full pawn pyramid, but white's pawn structure here is very, very stable. It's very hard for things to go wrong. Once you go e4, you are sort of committed to attacking, as once I go back, you know, the pawns here will always be a little more vulnerable. So I go back to d7, like this, and now, of course, I'm sort of threatening to win a pawn here like this, as that knight would be supported by the queen. So white sort of has to act here. He takes on b5, or c5, sorry. I take back. And now we have this really cool pawn structure where both sides are missing the D pawns and the B pawns. And you sometimes see this in the Nimzo-Indian. You sometimes see it in the Roy Lopez. Wherever it occurs, it always leads to really weird, difficult positions. All right, white, bishop b5, pressuring my queen, and of course, pinning the knight and offering the trade of queens. I go queen c7, getting out of the pin, threatening rook d8, pressuring the queen, and so on. So we have a4, decent move, rook d8, pressures the queen, queen to e2. And now I sort of need to find the next stage of my plan here. So what do? I go knight e5, just offering the knight trade, trying to get my piece to a more active square. Maybe I go bishop b7 next, activating the bishop, and, I've got a little plan here going. White castles. I go bishop b7. I see no reason to trade on f3. That would maybe activate white's queen, so I'm going to wait. If white takes on e5, I take back, and I'm doing fine. So far, that is my idea. Bishop b7. And now white makes a move that is a little bit weak. Knight g5. Now, normally I have annotations. I guess my annotations and notes didn't save, but that would normally be a question mark move. Now, with the queen on, say, h5, maybe there'd be some threats, but of course, there's no queen attack here, so I just go h6, driving back the knight, and white has no time for these kinds of shenanigans. So the knight should go back to f3. That would be the best place, and white is sort of wasting a move. I get h6 in for free. Instead, knight h3 is the move, dropping back to the h3 square. All right, the knight not really on the best square here. So I go c4, trying to gain space, opening up c5 for the queen maybe later. White goes rook fd1, and then knight d3, jumping in with the knight. So far, so good. I've got the knight on d3. That knight is officially octopus status, just reaching out all across the board. And you've seen so far, how interesting chess can be in this Nimzo-Indian opening. I really like what's going on here for black. Now, we have f3. This move could potentially weaken the king side. Now, obviously, like queen c5, queen b6 ideas are possible. I do jump into c5 like this, hit the king. We have knight f2, and then rook a c8, trying to defend. Now, here overall, I am doing a little better here. I've got the better minor piece, the more active queen, pressure on the king. But beyond that, I don't have a concrete plan for improving. Now, my big problem, this bishop, is biting on granite. It's not doing anything. So I need to find a way to activate the bishop. And beyond that, I've got to find something to attack in the white position. If I can't find a weakness, some way to attack, I will be in trouble. We have king f1. Now, knight f4. The knight drops back. This turns out to be a little bit weak. I should have left the knight on d3, where it was better placed. Why did I go back? Beats me. Blitz game. Things happen. White takes on d8. I take back, and then queen takes c4. Now, white is winning a pawn here, and technically black is still doing okay, but I don't like how this is developing here. Maybe I could trade queens, go rook d2, and maybe I argue I have the more active rook and knight, therefore I have some compensation, but I don't like white being up a pawn like that with the queens off the board. So therefore, I go queen to e3, sliding in with the queen. Not exactly the best move objectively, but it's blitz, and in blitz, being aggressive very often pays off, so that's what I went for. And queen c7. White finding a strong move, pressuring the rook and the bishop. What do I do to defend? This is not looking good. Well, rook d2. This was my entire idea of queen e3, keeping the queens on the board, staying active, and now we're threatening checkmate. But white's going to find the best defensive move. Knight g4, defending f2 with the knight. And there's simply no easy way to pressure the knight now, which is problematic. If I go, say, h5, I can always take on b2 and so on, or give a check, and it's not so easy to defend. So instead here, I drop back to a7 like this. Now, this move has some potential tactical ideas. If the bishop moves to, say, I don't know, e8, d7, bishop a6 hits the king with check and opens up the discovered attack on the queen. Now, technically, I'm basically losing here, but I'm going to keep fighting and maybe find a way to swindle this game in the Nimzo-Indian. We have king e1. The king slides over, attacks the rook. Rook is actually a bad move, Black is now doing much better. Rook takes g2. I win the pawn, and now the threat is going here, hitting the king. And although technically white can defend with bishop f1 for now, there's going to be ideas like knight d3 and so on, trying to finish off the game. All right, white, queen d8, hits the king, king to h7. Now white drops back in advance, but this is a mistake because queen to g1. And here, black, oh, did I forget the timers? Oh, shame on me, Chess YouTube. Black here, I mean, we're gonna go back a move here to this position. I mean, black, 6 seconds left on the clock in this game. I fly down, and black runs out of time. And I'm going to be honest, when I played this move, I did not see the follow-up. This was a 5-second move. Didn't have time to calculate. Sometimes you got to just play fast and blitz. Now, it turns out this was the strongest move, and the idea is very simple. Here, I'm threatening rook to e2. The point being the bishop can't take, and the rook's defended by the knight. So, for example, if white wastes a move, let's say h4, whatever, the winning idea is rook e2. You can't take the rook with the bishop or the king. The king has to slide over, and then you deliver the checkmate. So that was the idea behind that whole mating attack. So really, the Nimzo-Indian starting out kind of quiet. Bishop d2, you know, me trying to jump in with my knight, and things getting, to a mildly interesting middle game. But from there, things just getting super, super interesting, at least to me, with this weird pawn structure, the weird sort of attacking ideas and so on, trying to attack here. White going f3, weakening the king side, queen c4, pressures the king. From there, I made some mistakes. This being the big one right here. And white kind of punishes me. I make the mistake of queen e3, but not objectively good, but does lead to a beautiful attack. And from there, some really crazy attacking ideas with black. Like flying down with the queen, pinning the bishop, threatening rook e2. To me, the Nimzo-Indian is just everything you could want as black out of the opening. Just very strong, very solid. You develop your pieces fast. You castle, go d5, c5, get counterplay. And no matter what white does, black's going to have plenty of ways to reach not just an equal game, but a really interesting game as black. So to me, really just a fantastic 5-star out of 5-star opening. Highly recommend it for black, along with the QGD if white goes, say, knight f3 going d5. And from there, there's the Catalan. Knight c3 is also good for white. But black has many, many ways to play against both those options. So, really, really interesting stuff. All right, Chess YouTube, that is all for today. Hope you enjoyed the video. As always, if you did, comment down below what you thought of the game. What do you think of the Nimzo-Indian opening in general? Is the Nimzo-Indian your favorite way of facing 1d4 as black, or do you like something else? Maybe d5 heading for a semi-Slav. Maybe you like knight f6 heading for a King's Indian. That's also super popular at the amateur level. So let me know what your favorite way is to play, or if you even like, my preferred way, which is the, knight f6, e6, then either the Nimzo or the QGD, depending on what white does. So let me know what you play against 1d4. I'd love to know and hear from you. And that's all for today. And as always, I wish you the best of luck in your chess improvement journey in 2025 and beyond. And I'll see you in the next video.